They shot Kayce. The first look trailer for Marshals episode 3 just dropped and I'm losing my mind because the one thing we all feared might actually be happening. Kayce Dutton, the man who's been trying so hard to leave his past behind, might have just run out of luck. And trust me, what I'm about to show you is going to change everything we thought we knew about this show. Section 1. I've just finished watching the first look trailer for Marshals episode 3. And I need to talk about this right now because what we're seeing here is absolutely insane. The episode is titled Road to Nowhere. And after what I've just witnessed, that title makes so much more sense than I ever wanted it to. We knew this episode was going to deal with a standoff between Broken Rock and local ranchers over a mine groundbreaking that turns violent. But nobody prepared me for what actually happens. The Marshals are supposed to launch a manhunt to find the shooters, but here's the thing that's driving me crazy. Kayce doesn't just get caught in the crossfire, he gets shot. And from what we're seeing in this trailer, it looks really bad. I mean, we're talking about a moment that could literally end everything for him. And I can't stop thinking about how this connects to everything we've seen in the first 2 episodes. Kayce has been so stressed, so on edge, and now this happens. It's like the universe is punishing him for trying to move forward. Let me break down what we're seeing in this trailer because every single frame is important. The episode opens with what looks like a peaceful ceremony. We see Broken Rock tribal members gathering for what should be a groundbreaking event for this mine project. Thomas Rainwater is there, and Kayce's team is obviously on protection detail like we expected. Everything seems under control at first. The Marshals are positioned strategically, Bell scanning the crowd. Calvin's got his eyes on the perimeter and Andrea's right there next to Kayce. But then something shifts. You can see it in Kayce's face, that look he gets when he knows something's wrong. It's the same look we saw in episode 2 when they were near the zone of death. The same look that tells us Kayce's instincts are screaming at him. And this time, he's absolutely right to be worried. The local ranchers show up. And these aren't just regular protesters. These are angry men who feel like their land and their livelihoods are being threatened. We're seeing trucks pulling up, people getting out with signs, and the tension is so thick you can feel it through the screen. Harry's there too, and of course he's barking orders, trying to keep everything contained. But you can tell from his face that he knows this situation is about to explode. The Marshals try to create a barrier between the two groups, but it's not enough. Words are being exchanged, people are pushing, and then it happens. Gunshots, multiple gunshots, and everything descends into complete chaos. People are running, screaming, diving for cover. The Marshals are trying to locate the shooter while also protecting Rainwater and the tribal members. It's absolute pandemonium, and then we see Kayce. He's moving fast, gun drawn, eyes scanning for the threat. He's doing exactly what he's trained to do, exactly what a U.S. Marshal should do in this situation. But here's where everything goes wrong. There's another shot and Kayce goes down. He actually goes down. We see him hit the ground and Andrea's screaming his name. Calvin's rushing toward him. And Belle's trying to cover them while also looking for the shooter. The look on their faces tells us everything we need to know. This isn't just a graze. This isn't a flesh wound that Kayce can shake off. This looks serious, and I'm genuinely terrified about what this means for him. Because if Kayce Dutton dies, if this is how his story ends, I don't know how I'm going to handle that. We've watched this man go through so much pain, so much loss. And now when he's finally trying to build something new, this happens. But here's what's really eating at me. The timing of this is too perfect, or maybe too terrible depending on how you look at it. Kayce has been carrying all this guilt about Jamie, about the bodies in the zone of death, about everything he's done as a Dutton, and now he gets shot during an operation that involves Broken Rock. The very people his family has had conflicts with for generations. It's like his past and his present are colliding in the worst possible way. And I keep thinking about what Harry said in episode 2 about there being no coincidences when it comes to the Duttons. What if he's right? What if this shooting isn't random? What if someone knows something about Kayce that we don't know yet? I mean, the guy who shot him could be anyone. It could be a rancher who's genuinely upset about the mine. Or it could be someone with a completely different agenda. Someone who wants Kayce Dutton specifically out of the picture. The trailer gives us more pieces of this puzzle, and every single one of them is making me more anxious about where this is heading after Kayce gets shot. We see the team scrambling to get him medical attention while simultaneously trying to secure the scene. Andrea's applying pressure to the wound, and you can see the panic in her eyes. This is the woman who's been so composed, so professional throughout everything we've seen so far. And now she's absolutely terrified. Calvin's on the radio calling for emergency medical services. And his voice is shaking. These people care about Kayce. They genuinely care about him, and watching them try to save him is heartbreaking. But what's even more intense is that they can't just focus on Kayce. There's still an active shooter situation happening around them. Bells returned fire in the direction where the shots came from, and other marshals are trying to evacuate civilians while also hunting for whoever did this. It's a nightmare scenario, and everyone's worst fears are playing out in real time. Then we get this shot of Harry, and his face is doing something I didn't expect. He looks concerned. Actually concerned, not suspicious, not accusatory, but genuinely worried about one of his marshals. And that's throwing me off because Harry's been nothing but antagonistic toward Kayce since the beginning. He's questioned every move Kayce makes, doubted his loyalty, made it clear he doesn't trust anyone with the Dutton name. But seeing Kayce bleeding out on the ground seems to have triggered something different in him. Maybe it's just professional concern for a member of his team. Or maybe Harry's starting to realize that Kayce isn't the enemy he thought he was. Either way, this moment might actually change their dynamic going forward, assuming Kayce survives this. And that's a big assumption right now because the trailer is definitely making us question whether he's going to make it through this episode. We also get glimpses of the aftermath. And this is where things get really complicated. The manhunt is on for the shooter, and the team is going after them with everything they've got. But here's the problem, multiple shooters were involved and they've scattered into the mountains. The terrain is rough, the suspects know the area better than the marshals do, and emotions are running extremely high. Calvin's leading the pursuit, and you can tell he's not thinking clearly. He's angry, he's scared for his friend, and that combination is dangerous. Belle tries to talk him down at one point, telling him they need to be smart about this, but Calvin's not hearing it. He wants whoever shot Kayce, and he wants them now. I'm worried he's going to do something reckless, something that puts himself or others in danger. And Andrea, well, Andrea's torn between staying with Kayce and joining the hunt. You can see the conflict written all over her face. Part of her wants to be there when he wakes up, but the other part wants justice for what happened to him. The local ranchers are being rounded up and questioned. And this is where the Broken Rock connection becomes really important. Some of the ranchers are claiming that tribal members fired first, while Broken Rock witnesses are saying the opposite. Everyone's pointing fingers. Everyone's got their own version of events, and the marshals are stuck in the middle trying to figure out the truth. But what's really interesting is that we see Mo in this trailer. Mo, Tom is Rainwater's right-hand man, and he's talking to Kayce's team. He's providing information, trying to help them find the shooters, and that tells me that Rainwater and his people want justice too. They don't want this violence any more than the marshals do, but the question is, will that be enough? Will the marshals be able to find the shooters before things escalate even further? Because if they don't, if this turns into a prolonged conflict between the ranchers and Broken Rock, Kayce's shooting is just going to be the beginning of something much worse. There's this one scene in the trailer that I cannot stop thinking about. Kayce is in what looks like a hospital bed, and he's conscious but clearly in pain. Someone's talking to him, asking him questions, and he's struggling to respond. But what catches my attention is the expression on his face. It's not just physical pain, it's something deeper. It's like getting shot has forced him to confront something he's been avoiding. Maybe it's his mortality. Maybe it's the realization that he can't outrun his past no matter how hard he tries. Or maybe it's the fear that his son might lose another parent. Whatever it is, Kayce looks broken in a way we haven't seen before. And that's saying something, because we've watched this man endure incredible trauma throughout Yellowstone and now in Marshals. But this feels different. This feels like a breaking point. Now let's talk about what this shooting means for the bigger picture, because I don't think this is just about one violent incident. This feels like a turning point for the entire series. Kayce has been walking this tightrope between his old life and his new one, trying to prove that he can be a good marshal while also protecting the secrets of his family. And now that balance is completely shattered. When you get shot in the line of duty, people start asking questions. They investigate. They look into everything about you to make sure there wasn't something personal behind the attack, and that's exactly what Kayce can't afford right now. Harry's already suspicious of him, already looking for any excuse to prove that Duttons can't be trusted. What happens when he starts digging deeper into Kayce's background? What happens when he starts asking questions about where Kayce was during certain times, who he was with, what he was doing? The investigation into the shooting could very easily turn into an investigation into Kayce himself. And that's terrifying. I keep going back to episode 2 and that whole situation with the zone of death. Kayce killed that man and dumped his body there without hesitation. He didn't try to save him, didn't call for help, just made sure he died and disappeared. That's not the action of someone who's left the Dutton way of life behind. That's the action of someone who's still very much a Dutton, still willing to do whatever it takes to protect himself and his family. And now he's lying in a hospital bed, vulnerable, with people around him who are going to want answers. Calvin's going to want to know if this was random or targeted. Belle's going to review every detail of the operation to see if they missed something. Andrea's going to be by his side, watching him, maybe starting to see things about him that don't quite add up. The walls are closing in on Kayce, and getting shot might be the least of his problems. The trailer also shows us something that's making my conspiracy brain go into overdrive. There's a moment where we see someone watching the chaos unfold from a distance. We don't see their face clearly, but they're observing everything through binoculars or a scope. They're watching the Marshals, watching Kayce specifically, and then they just disappear into the trees. This isn't one of the ranchers. This isn't someone from Broken Rock. This is someone else entirely. Someone who might have been waiting for exactly this kind of opportunity, and that makes me think. This shooting wasn't random at all. What if someone set this whole thing up? What if they knew there would be tension at the groundbreaking, knew it would likely turn violent, and used that chaos as cover to go after Kayce? I know that sounds extreme, but think about it. The Duttons have enemies everywhere. John Dutton made a lot of people angry during his time, and Kayce was his enforcer for years. How many people out there want revenge on the Dutton family? How many would see Kayce as the perfect target now that he's separated from the ranch? Now that he doesn't have that protection anymore? And here's another thing that's bothering me. We know Jamie's body is in the zone of death, and we know Kayce was involved in putting him there. But who else knows? Beth knows, obviously, Rip knows. But what if someone else found out? What if there's evidence somewhere that Kayce hasn't thought about, a witness he didn't see, a camera he didn't notice, something that connects him to Jamie's disappearance? If whoever shot Kayce knows about Jamie, if they're using that information to come after him, then this whole situation becomes so much bigger than just a violent protest gone wrong. This becomes about justice, about revenge, about all the sins of the Dutton family finally catching up to them. And Kayce would have no way to defend himself without admitting to murder. He'd have to choose between going to prison or running. And neither of those options works for him. He's got a son to think about, a career he's trying to build, a life he's trying to create. But if the truth about Jamie comes out, all of that disappears. The relationships within the Marshall team are also going to be tested in ways we haven't seen yet. Calvin's been Kayce's strongest defender, always backing him up, always giving him the benefit of the doubt. But what happens when Calvin starts to wonder if Harry's suspicions have merit? What happens when the evidence starts pointing in directions that don't make sense? When Kayce's explanations don't quite add up? Calvin's not stupid. He's a good marshal, a good investigator, and he's going to notice inconsistencies. The trailer shows a moment where Calvin's looking at something on a computer screen, and his expression is troubled. He's found something, or he's starting to piece something together. And it's clearly bothering him. Is he discovering something about the shooting, or is he discovering something about Kayce? Either way, that look on his face tells me their friendship is about to be seriously tested. And Belle, she's already dealing with her own crisis, trying to balance her job and her family. Now she's got to deal with this trauma, with seeing a teammate get shot, with hunting down the people responsible, while also wondering if there's more to this story than what they're being told. Andrea's reaction to all of this is particularly interesting because the trailer shows her in a completely different light than what we've seen before. She's always been the fun one, the flirty one, the marshal who seems to take things less seriously than everyone else. But watching Kayce get shot has clearly shaken her to her core. There's a scene where she's sitting outside what looks like the hospital, and she's just staring into space with tears running down her face. This woman who's had a different guy interested in her every 5 minutes suddenly looks like none of that matters anymore. And I'm starting to think that maybe, just maybe, Andrea's feelings for Kayce run deeper than any of us realized. Maybe all that casual dating, all those surface-level connections were just her way of avoiding something real. And now that Kayce's life is hanging in the balance, she's being forced to confront what he actually means to her. The trailer shows her holding something, and I'm pretty sure it's the necklace. Kayce's wife's necklace that he's been carrying around. If Andrea's holding it, that means she was there with him when it happened. That means she might have been the one going through his things to secure them. And holding that necklace, understanding what it represents. That's got to hit different when you're realizing you might have feelings for the man who carries it. But let's talk about the manhunt itself, because this is where the episode is really going to get intense. The Marshals are tracking multiple suspects through some seriously rough terrain. And from what we're seeing in the trailer, these aren't amateurs they're chasing. These shooters know exactly what they're doing. They've split up. They're using the landscape to their advantage. And they're leading the Marshals into increasingly dangerous situations. There's a shot of Calvin and another Marshal moving through thick forest, weapons drawn, and you can feel the tension. They don't know where the shooters are. They don't know if they're walking into an ambush. and they're running on pure adrenaline and anger. This is exactly the kind of situation where mistakes get made, where someone else gets hurt or killed. And I'm genuinely worried that this manhunt is going to claim more victims before it's over. The broken rock angle adds another layer of complexity that I don't think we've fully appreciated yet. Thomas Rainwater's trying to keep the peace, trying to make sure his people don't get blamed for something they didn't do. But some of the local ranchers are already convinced that tribal members were involved in the shooting. They're calling for investigations, demanding arrests. And the situation is spiraling toward something that could destroy the fragile peace that's existed in the area. Mo's working with the Marshals, providing information and assistance, but even that's causing problems. Some people see it as cooperation, while others see it as broken rock trying to cover something up. The politics of the situation are a minefield, and everyone's trying to navigate it while also dealing with the immediate crisis of finding the shooters and making sure Kayce survives. It's too much for anyone to handle, and I think we're going to see some serious fractures forming in this community because of what happened. There's also this underlying question of whether Kayce's past might have actually caught up to him in a way none of us expected. What if one of those ranchers knows who he is? Not just knows he's a Dutton, but knows what he's done. Montana's a small place in a lot of ways. People talk, stories spread, and the Dutton name carries weight. What if someone at that groundbreaking recognized Kayce and saw an opportunity? What if this wasn't about the mine at all, but about settling an old score? The trailer doesn't give us a clear answer, but it definitely plants that seed of doubt. And knowing how this show operates, knowing how interconnected everything in the Yellowstone universe is, I wouldn't be surprised if we find out that this shooting has roots that go much deeper than a simple dispute over land rights. Everything connects back to the Duttons eventually. Every action they've taken, every person they've hurt, every enemy they've made, it all comes back around. And maybe this is Kayce's reckoning. What's really getting to me is thinking about Kayce's son, Tate. The trailer doesn't show us Tate's reaction to finding out his father's been shot, but we know it's coming. This kid has already lost his mother. His eyes, looks at whoever's there and says something. We can't hear what he says because there's no audio in the trailer at this point. Just music building to this emotional crescendo. But you can read his lips and it looks like he's saying, "I'm sorry, not help me, not what happened. But I'm sorry," and that breaks my heart because what is Kayce Dutton apologizing for? Is he apologizing for getting shot, for putting his team in danger? Is he apologizing for his past, for all the things he's done that he can never take back? Or is he apologizing because he knows that his secrets are about to come out? That everything he's been trying to build is about to crumble? And the people who care about him are going to get hurt in the fallout, whatever he means by it. That apology feels like a goodbye. Like a man who thinks he might not survive this, or who knows that even if his body survives, the life he's been trying to create won't. And then the trailer cuts to black with text that says some secrets are buried too deep, and I'm absolutely losing my mind over that line. Because yes, Kayce's literally buried secrets in the zone of death, Jamie's body, other bodies, evidence of crimes that can never come to light. But it's also talking about emotional secrets, about the trauma Kayce carries, about the parts of himself he's tried to bury so he can move forward. Getting shot is forcing all of that to the surface. There's no running from it anymore. No compartmentalizing. No pretending that he can be a different person than who he's always been, the Dutton. In him, the part that kills without hesitation and protects family above all else. That's coming back whether he wants it to or not. And the people around him are going to see it. They're going to see what he's capable of, what he's done. And they're going to have to decide if they can live with that knowledge or if it changes everything they thought they knew about him. I genuinely don't know how Kayce survives this, and I don't just mean physically. Even if the doctors save him, even if he recovers from the gunshot wound, how does he come back from this emotionally and professionally? Harry's going to investigate every aspect of the shooting. The shooters, if they're caught, are going to be questioned extensively. Someone might talk, someone might know something. Someone might connect dots that Kayce can't afford to have connected. And Kayce is going to be lying in a hospital bed, unable to control the narrative, unable to protect himself the way he normally would. He's completely vulnerable, and for a Dutton, vulnerability is the most dangerous position you can be in. The walls he's built around himself, the new identity he's tried to create as a U.S. Marshal, all of that is at risk. And I think that's scarier to him than the bullet that's currently in his body. This episode is going to change everything. I'm calling it right now. Marshals episode 3 is the turning point where Kayce's two lives, the one he's running from and the one he's trying to build, collide in a way that he can't control. Someone's going to find out something they shouldn't know. Relationships are going to be tested and possibly destroyed. And Kayce Dutton is going to have to make choices about who he really is and what he's willing to sacrifice to protect the people he loves. The Road to Nowhere isn't just the title of this episode. It's a warning about where Kayce's path is leading him. He's been trying so hard to find a new direction, a new purpose. But maybe there is no escape from being a Dutton, maybe the violence and the secrets and the weight of everything his family's done will follow him, no matter how far he runs or how hard he tries to change. And that's the real tragedy of Kayce's story. Not that he got shot, but that he might finally be realizing that redemption isn't possible for someone like him. I cannot wait to see how this plays out. But I'm also terrified because I care about these characters so much. I want Kayce to survive. I want him to find peace. I want him to be able to give his son the life he deserves. But I don't know if this show is going to give us that happy ending. The Yellowstone universe has never been kind to the Duttons, and Marshall seems determined to continue that tradition. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens when episode 3 drops. And trust me, I'll be right here breaking down every single moment with you if this trailer has you as emotional as it has me. If you're worried about Kayce, if you need someone to talk to about all of this, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me what you think is really going on. Tell me if you think Kayce is going to make it through this, and please, hit that like button and subscribe. Because we've got a lot more Marshals content coming and you're not going to want to miss any of it. This show is just getting started, and if episode 3 is any indication, we're in for one hell of a ride.